Thanks for joining us today at the Healing Medicine Podcast. Who are you listening to? I am Dr. Jessie Mahoney, and my co-host is Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang. We are two board-certified physicians who bring decades of experience to the conversation about wellness. If you crave more ease and aspire to rediscover your love for medicine and life, one mindful step at a time, you are in the right place. We hope you'll love today's episode, and if so, please share it. A reminder that nothing in our podcast is medical advice. Today is part 2 of a conversation with my son Slade about using AI in mindful, practical ways. Today, we're going to lean into how to use AI in real life as a real person and discuss a little bit about how AI is like learning a new language and learning new tools, a bit like coaching is learning a new language. And I think many of us in medicine think about medicine as a very specific language and way of interacting with the world and way of asking questions. And also inviting a discussion of how, just like coaching can help you feel lighter and save energy, AI can actually do some of those things if you use it in a mindful and thoughtful way. So at the outset, I just want to reflect on this idea that tech fluency and translation are not the same thing, and that many of us have had frustrating experiences with AI, either because we're not fluent with the tech or because it hasn't been translated in a way that we can understand how to interact with it well. So we want to talk about today really practical stuff about how it might be able to help you, how it has helped Slade, how it helped me, and how we can interact with it in very practical, helpful ways. So welcome back, Slade. Thanks for joining me again. And if you want to know about Slade and his background, listen to the previous episode because he shares all about it there. And today we thought we'd dive in. Slade, maybe you can talk about how you use AI in your current life. What kinds of things has it been helpful for?
Yeah, for me, there are a lot of different use cases. The one that came to mind actually just kind of randomly was I just moved into a new house that I'm renting. And I'm not a lawyer, and the lease agreement was 15 pages long. So what I did was I threw that into ChatGPT and I said, hey, based on what you know about me, that I'm X years old with 3 little children, I have family visiting frequently, what would you, or break this down in plain English and tell me what I need to be worried about. It did that awesome. It said, this is a pretty standard lease agreement, but these are the 4 things that you should consider. One of them was they had a 3-day stay limit for guests before you had to consider them tenants, or something weird like that, just something random thrown in. And so I was like, hey, I'm excited about the lease, but I have these couple changes. We can talk about them. And one, because you come and visit me a lot and help with my children. And I was like, I need that to be a week. And this is why. And it's because I have young twins that at least my landlord's a twin actually as well. So I was like, so you know that. And just that was just I thought of just a really quick practical way that I used it recently. Other than having my dad, who's a lawyer, read it, don't really need him to do that, but just for a little quick and dirty, really helpful thing that really helped me and get what I want out of this life. That was something that just came to mind recently. The other way that I've also used it recently is I got a new job, and I used AI to help me search for companies that I wasn't thinking of that would be good fits. So I have a background in public policy. I also have a background in kind of sales and tech sales more recently, and in data fluency or digital fluency, translating complex digital things or technology things to folks who don't usually use it that much. So I said, knowing that, companies am I not thinking of? Because we always hear about big companies, and in this day and age of remote work, and there's just so many companies out there, and it takes so long to search. Like I would spend 8 hours a day searching for open positions. What jobs are there? And then combing through it. Am I a good fit? How should I tailor my resume? All this stuff. The tailoring of the resume and the writing the cover letter, those are still very human things that I think, especially the cover letter, should generally be left up to you, but you can use AI to assist in that. But what it really helped me for was finding this company that I work for now that is, we do like tech-enabled immigration, which is like a really perfect blend for my background. I didn't even know this company existed. They're based out of Chicago, but they allow remote work. It's been like an amazing fit so far, and I love it. But I would have no idea that anything about this company. And that was just one of the ones that it gave me as like companies that might be in the ballpark of what I'm looking to do.
Yeah, to me, it's a lot of the front end work, and then you can personalize it. And I will just give an example that's been coming up that I worked with someone, a real person. I had asked them to help me with my website and figure out like what, I don't really know anything about SEO or how these things worked. And what did the computer think of me? What was its story about what I did and what I offered? And that's actually a really important thing, because this is how people find you. And if you want to make a difference in the world, you actually have to have people find you. And as you pointed out, that's how people find whether they're a match or a fit. And so it's kind of like sifting through all this information. But if you are that company that you just mentioned, right, and it's not clear about what they care about or what they do or what matters, that's where the problem arises. And so as the small business, it was important to me to say is what the computer thinks of me, who I actually am, and what's missing. And so I actually, it mostly thinks I'm who I am. It mostly has correct facts, but not all. So part of it is you can then ask it, if the fact is incorrect, ask it why it thinks that. And it'll actually tell you, it's this sentence here. And I interpret that as XYZ. You can change it or not, right? That's the human interaction piece. One of the funny things that I do think worth mentioning here is it told me, I asked it about my blog. Because I get these reports and people read a few blogs on mine all the time, every month, that, and I never quite understood why. It'll tell you why. It also told me that essentially most of my blogs, which I have been writing for 6 years, is unreadable by AI because I haven't tagged it. And I will say that I wrote it over the 6 years from a passion-based space and very creative. I love my blog. AI didn't write any of my blogs. I wrote them all. But what I didn't do is translate it for the robot. So the robot can't read it or recommend it. And yet, as many of the people listening to this podcast know, my blogs are really offer a lot. And it could bring a lot to people I work with and people and institutions who might find value. And so the idea is like, it was literally a simple system of tagging it that changes it. Now, interestingly, there's no way for AI to do that. I actually have to go back and manually look at those things and decide what I want to tag them. That's the human interaction. And so I do get to say why I wrote it and what the meaning behind it is. But I think it's really helpful to have it do this screening and let you know how things are being interpreted by the computer. It's not telling you how it's being interpreted by humans. But if part of what you do is presenting something as a company or as a private practice, or even if you have just a web page on your larger institutional space, it can tell you what the computer is interpreting about you, which I thought was like super cool. I had no idea it could do this. So it seems like that's another sort of real life practical use of it. And I know the very first thing you helped me with, which is really cool. I used to spend hours writing show notes for this very podcast. And I've already done the creative part. I've already recorded the podcast. That's where all the original creative stuff comes from. And then I would have the transcript, and then I would have to remember what I talked about and try to organize it into something. And you taught me that I could give it the actual transcript of what we talked about and have it summarize it and write show notes. And we went round and round about this because I wanted them to sound like my show notes. And so I was able to feed it back to the ones that I had done. And this is the style I like. and this is what I like to share and pull out. And we were really able to refine it over multiple steps because, as most of you who work with me know, I'm kind of picky. I like it the way I like it. And it's so important to me to have it be unique and authentic in my voice. And so I had to teach it my voice. But now I don't have to spend time doing that. And even better, it actually can, the next up level is that it can write different show notes for different platforms so that people can find it on different platforms. And it can, as you said, it recommends things to you. And now you might say, well, that's taking the person out of it. But what I would say is there are a lot of people out there who would enjoy this podcast who don't even know it exists. And so I can let it be out there where nobody can find it, or I can let the computer help me figure out how to match it up to people that would enjoy it and would get value. And that is invaluable. The trick, though, was really working through, and I would say multiple rounds of you getting an output for me. And I would say, that's not the output I want. This doesn't sound like me. That's not me. And one of the things I actually feel most good about AI is that it cannot replace me. Its output is never me. And I always have to go back and fix it. And I keep trying to tell it, that's not me. I would never say that. And it learns to some degree, but I think that there is job security in being authentically you. Because the robot can't be you. The other thing that I love is that robots actually make mistakes. And I think in medicine, we used to say robots don't make mistakes and that, we're human and that's the problem. But I would say robots make mistakes and humans make mistakes. So there's room for mistakes in medicine and mistakes in all that we do, and getting more comfortable with mistakes as just part of the process. And it's learning and iterative and drafts, and that's clearly the way that the world is heading and going to change. And so let's talk a bit about, I'm going to put it through the lens of mindful communication with AI, because we're actually communicating and having a relationship with the robot. And we talked a little bit in the last episode about the importance of asking good questions, which is, of course, a coaching tool. And we've talked a little bit about knowing the results that you want and clear context. And all of these things are things that we talk about in leadership coaching and in, patient communication and in communicating with your spouse. We're going to talk a little bit about how it can't read your mind. And yet so many of us think it should read our mind. And so I actually think the robot has a lot of amazing lessons to teach us about how to communicate well. It doesn't tolerate ambiguous, vague communication, and it doesn't read our mind. Do you want to talk a little bit about how we can communicate mindfully with the robot and strategically?
Absolutely, yeah. And I also want to touch on some of the things that you just spoke about as a part of that.
Yeah.
I think one important thing to note is for you as a small business owner,
yeah,
what your unique gift is your ability to coach and your ability to communicate. Yeah. It's not your ability to tag things for SEO optimization. That's someone else's job usually. So you don't need to be good at that. Yeah. But it's a key part of your business for attracting new clients. And if you're a plumber, if you're a restaurant, it's also a key part of your business. But you might be really good at making sushi, but you're not someone who's good at optimizing for Yelp reviews or something like that. But it's because we live in this digital world, it's all kind of part of the whole picture that you need to know.
Yeah.
So it's really important. And like what you said, you're not outsourcing that part of your authentic creativity. You are using this as a tool to help you magnify that. And what am I trying to say? Create it, make it bigger and make it create more ripples. Amplify it. Exactly. Yeah. So the way to do that with the SEO stuff as well, like you said, you have all these blogs, but when you had AI review it, it wasn't getting the same traction. The computer didn't know what you were saying, or it wasn't able to interpret that.
It said my blog was exceptional, but nobody could find it.
Well, we know it's exceptional, but we want them to be able to find it because we want your voice to be amplified and we want your message to be out there. And for any small business owner, I think that's true as well.
Yes.
But it brings up a key point, right? And we use English, you and I, as our language of communication. We know what we are saying to each other.
Mm-hmm.
In this world in this digital world, it's computers talking to computers. So while you have this amazing blog post, and I honestly have no idea how this works on the back end, but whatever, the SEO Google computer is not seeing your blog post computer and their voices, like you're not saying what it can hear.
Yeah. Well, I used a lot of poetic language because I was thinking creative writing, but it doesn't understand poetic language, which doesn't mean it can't be in the post. I was actually quite happy. The robot told me I could keep it. I just had to label it correctly, and I could keep everything else.
Yeah. And I think it brings up an important connotation. It's not maybe necessarily that you don't know how to use AI,
Mm-hmm.
but it's that we're learning to use a new language. And for me, I speak Spanish, not very well, but
very well.
I need to learn how to use it in my daily life because that's a language that's spoken in my home.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, I don't know, a couple months ago, probably too long ago now, but I would say there's two ways to say I love you. It's te amo and te quiero.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly forgot, but te amo is the one that you say to your spouse, that's more intimate. And so I was saying that to my family members,
Mm-hmm.
which they weren't correcting me on, but my wife said, hey, just so you know, this is not being translated in the way that you think it is. Mm-hmm. But it's okay because you're a gringo and they're letting it pass. But in the same way that you kind of need it, you needed me to help you and AI to help you kind of coach yourself on how do I talk to the computer.
Yeah.
You kind of need a coach to kind of help you do that. Yeah. So the best way that I've found to really communicate with AI and get it to give you the output that you're hoping for. And like you said, it's not going to be perfect. Usually it's not perfect and it does make mistakes. So we have to be very vigilant about what we are, what it's getting out and reading it and proofreading it and making sure it's what you want, because it won't do things perfect and you are going to have to iterate. Mm-hmm. So the principles that I found that helped me the most is first taking a step back and really getting clear about what would a useful result look like. What's the end goal? What's my output? What do I want that to be? That helps you frame what you need to request or ask from AI to either help you build or help you edit or help you whatever you need it to do. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, what context does this tool need from me and what does it already have? Mm-hmm. So if you're a new AI user or you don't basically if you don't use it frequently, it's not going to know a lot about you. Mm-hmm. It only knows what you tell it. And it does know things. It can search the internet and it can search everything natural language, meaning everything that's typed up and written. So it has all of this publicly available information, but it doesn't know how you think. It's not a mind reader. It doesn't know what you want it to do. And it doesn't know kind of how you like things, which is what we ran into a lot when we were iterating your stuff. You have a very specific way you want things because that's what makes sense to you and that's how you've done it. And that's perfect, whatever. We can make the tool work for you, but we have to be very specific about what we're asking it to do.
And I think why was the other missing piece, why I wanted it to do that. Because it could read all the show notes I'd written in the past, but it didn't know why I wrote them that way.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's part of the knowing what your end goal is as well, because your end goal isn't just to make show notes for this podcast, because that's just, that could just be whatever. You can do show notes, however, but you want it to be show notes that speak to people, that get people to click on it, that get people to listen, and that use your authentic voice as best as possible based on what you've posted publicly.
And I wanted them to offer value so that they weren't just an advertisement or join this thing. I wanted it to be very clear that there was wisdom in there and that there were summaries in there and useful things. And so it wasn't just adding to the garbage on the internet. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that part speaks to the third key that I think is really helpful is you also need to know what part of this still needs my own judgment and wisdom and voice, because we don't want to just produce AI slop and BS out there. There's an environmental impact that goes on with that. There's just I don't know. We don't need more of that, basically.
Yeah. Well, and I think there is a lot of catastrophization out there now about the environmental impact and the heat generated. There's a whole lot of stuff. And
Mhm.
so can we all be responsible users of it, and have it be a positive add to our society?
Yeah. And like the environmental impacts are a really important conversation that I think are being had and really need us, like it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think this tool's going away, and we need to be able to use it and figure out our relationship with it in order to kind of use it in the way that we want to effectively.
Yeah. So this is where I'm going to share a little bit of a story, but Slade has helped me, and I told Slade that I thought he should help other people because it blew me away how helpful this was, and uniquely helpful because, as I mentioned, my other sons will get better and better at it, but they don't have the translation skill. And I sort of wonder if part of this translation skill is you speak multiple languages, you live in a household where people speak multiple languages, and you have this sort of emotional intelligence around it, which are pieces that we've talked about in both these podcasts as being essential as to how we relate to AI. So at any rate, I suggested to Slade that he start his own business helping people with this because I think it's really important. And I know so many people that need help. And so he took me up on it, which is why he agreed to do these podcasts, despite having 3 children and another job. And I encouraged him to do this because I think it's important to the world. I actually hope that not too many of you take him up on it and then he won't have time to help me. But I do think that there's this beautiful opportunity here that if we could all embrace this change in a very intentional, strategic way, whether you're just an individual who wants to know how to use it better, whether you are a small business, whether you're in medicine, you want to understand it, I think there's real value in the conversation and the interaction. And so much of us feel like getting help is somehow weak, or we should just be able to understand it. And I even find that for me, watching a video is useless for me. I don't want to watch a video that tells me how to use X, Y, or Z. I like a real person and a real interaction, which is interesting, right? Because AI could potentially teach us how to use AI. But for many of us, this is where we want that human to human interaction and the ability to refine it for what you feel like is most important. And I think you raise these 3 questions, like what's your useful end result or your end goal? Why do you want that? The context of who you are, and weaving in your own judgment and wisdom. And as you said those things, I said, well, yeah, but that's also a little bit complicated in really thinking about it. Like you can think about that, but then you and I have gone back and forth a bit about, well, what do you actually want to put in there as the context, and how do you say it? I will often, we work side by side, and I will say, is this how I say it? Is this the question? It's a little bit like learning your language. And is this how you say I love you? Or is this how you say I love you? Because the computer only picks up what you put into it. And so a lot of it is that, that feedback. So I just, maybe Slade, if you want to tell people how they can find you, and if they are interested in leaning into some of this, what you're offering. And I would just all encourage you. I had a great experience. And as many of you know, I bring people on the podcast who I've had a great experience with for whatever reason, or they've changed my life, or sometimes I've changed their lives. But I really like to make this a very human podcast, and with sharing amazing human opportunities and amazing human stories and experiences. So I share that with this in mind.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate the platform. And just so you know, I would have come on if I didn't have this.
Of course. This is your third podcast with me. So I appreciate your repeat visit.
As long as I have more than my other brothers, that's okay.
You're winning.
I can still be the favorite child.
This podcast has moved you ahead. This is when you have 3 sons, you have to make sure that everyone is getting enough attention.
Absolutely. But like you said, I am kind of trying to launch this business about helping folks navigate AI and just figuring out kind of how you want to make it, how you want your relationship to be with it, and how to make it work best for you. There are a couple of different ways that I foresee doing this. One is through like group sessions, whether that's like a presentation with live Q&A, and then getting into some kind of basic tools or basic like real life case studies, because the only way to get better is to do it yourself. So kind of being with you to walk you through that. I think the most helpful way, and this is kind of what you and I have done, is an iterative process. So meeting for multiple times, and each time we kind of really nail down and work on the things that you want to get out of AI, whether that's creating a tool that can help you do X, Y, or Z, or edit your show notes and iterate that. And in between those sessions, like the goal is to make you a capable user of AI. So you will have like some homework that you need to work on, and next time we meet, like we'll have new questions and we can dive deeper into different things. So that one is the one I'm really excited about. And then for the final offering is just kind of for small business, I've come from that world as a consultant, working for a small business, and I've helped a couple of businesses along the way just really kind of figure out how to cut through kind of the BS with all these different AI offerings. Is this even really AI? Is this useful for my business? Can I build a tool that's not this proprietary company's thing that I can just make on my own and just work for me, for my business, because it's very unique. So I'm doing that as well. Oh, and how can you find me? Yes, that's the most important thing. I have a website. It's called AI with Slade, and aiwithslade.com. You can find me there.
Yeah. And Slade is a family name, and it is spelled Slade for those of you who are not familiar with it. My dad is also Slade, and it goes way back. So I encourage you all to spend some time with Slade. He's an amazing human, of course, and I'm 100% biased, but he's also a very good teacher of this tool. And I want to end with reflecting just that this challenges with AI are not, for most of us, a lack of intelligence or even willingness at this point. Many of us understand that learning about it is going to be required, but it's really a lack of good, effective translation in a way that's relevant, practical, and human. And so can you figure out how to make that happen for you? And I strongly encourage you. The support has been super helpful for me. I continue to ask for it and continue to learn from it. And I will say that I believe I'm getting better and better, and that now I come with questions much farther down the line. Like, I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried that, and what's the missing piece here? Or, I've asked it all these things and I'm still not getting what I want. And why is that? The other thing that I think I'm really learning is what it can help with and what it can't help with, because part of my brain now has exploded with all the options. So I just think it could potentially do everything. And so having people with wisdom about what it can and cannot help with, so I can just say, okay, well, that's great. I can't help with everything yet. And there can be a simplicity having conversations with people who have more experience with it. It reminds me a little bit of coaching. It's sort of AI coaching, but having a lens of someone. You share what the output you want, and then you have someone asking you more questions, helpful questions, because really the work with AI is you are coaching AI to be able to do what you want it to do. And so there's all these layers of intention and mindfulness and pausing and being thoughtful along the way. And that will ultimately hopefully allow us to engage with these robots in a thoughtful, intentional, mindful, and in my case, friendly, open-hearted way. So thank you all so much for listening. And I would love to have you, since we spoke about it, read my blog. The more people who read it, the more people AI recommends it to, apparently. And it's in the process of being tagged in more effective ways. But what I have discovered from this AI project is that AI thinks that many of my blogs are very unique and interesting, and many of mine from 2020 and 2021 are the ones that it's pulling as the most interesting or most powerful. I don't know why. I don't understand the algorithm yet. But in the process, I've rediscovered a whole lot of really fun things that I've forgotten about and forgotten that I wrote about. So as longtime listeners, many of you, I encourage you to go back and check out the blog and see if there is something there for you. And in the spirit of human to human interaction and the importance of humans, I also encourage you to join me for a retreat where we actually get to meet in real life as humans, and or on coaching on Zoom, because there is the Chat GPT robot coach is many people tell me what the robot told them if they asked a question, and it's not the same as a human. I feel I have a lot of job security, despite all of the things it can help with. And so really leaning into your humanness and what makes it hard to be a human, and how we can have robots help us be humans navigating this very complex world. So Slade, thank you so much for joining me. Any final words you want to say before we close this out?
No, just keep continuing the great work. And I think, like I mentioned in the last episode, human to human interaction will never go away. I think a lot of jobs will change from AI, but I think at the end of the day, our unique values as humans is something that can't be taken away from us. And if deployed in the right way, I think AI can help amplify a lot of the really great things about each of us that we all have to share with the world.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. If our message resonates, we'd love to connect further. Join us for coaching, mindfulness experiences, workshops, and retreats. Invite us to speak at your institution or conference. When you work with us, you don't just consume information, you create real change. Find me, Chang Liang, at Awakened Breath, and Jessie Mahoney at Pause and Presence.
Welcome to today's mindful moment. Closing eyes if it's safe to do so, noticing your feet on the earth, reconnecting to your breath. Taking a moment to slow down, to settle, and to be exactly as you are, where you are, with no hurry or urgency ahead. Simply, perhaps, a lens of intrigue, curiosity. What might be out there? What that you haven't learned might be helpful, useful? What might shift? What if learning new languages is fun? What if they open up a whole new world of things that you never thought of before? What if acquiring some skills, saving some time, gives you time for other things that matter most? What if you could let go of things that aren't your highest, wisest energy expenditures? Letting just the possibilities of what if float out there, be there, connect with them, enjoy that expansion of possibility. Enjoy the growth of openness. Bringing a hand to heart if you'd like to capture it and tuck it into that retrocardiac space. Coming back to your breath. Taking a moment to perhaps show up with hope for the idea that there are tasks that you can take off of your plate. There are places where you can get answers quickly, efficiently, What if there is efficiency out there that you weren't aware of that literally gives you time to slow down like this and space to slow down? I, for one, hope that's true. The light and love in me reflects and honors the light and love in each and every one of you. May we all move forward with intrigue and curiosity and creativity, spending more time on the things that matter most, and letting things that are not meant for us be done by someone else or something else. May we bring a small bit of awe and wonder and the desire to learn to speak new languages and grow our brains and show up in the world differently. Thank you all so much for practicing with me. Slowly lower your hands, open your eyes, let the light in, and reconnect to your breath. We'll see you next week.